Hey everyone, welcome to another episode with me and Tracy, where we're talking about career conversations and the challenges of navigating your career. I'm Suzi from Transform Your Career Success.
And I'm Tracy from Reforge Change. Today's topic, I'm really excited about this one, is about the ever-changing job market. Because if you have been in a role for a little while, or you've worked in the same sector for a while, then you will know, if you've had a look at any sort of job adverts or any sort of recruitment, that things are just totally different to maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The job titles are different, what they're asking for is different, and it feels like a whole Wild West out there that maybe you don't feel like you know where you fit in. So what we want to talk about today is how do you navigate that, and how do you set yourself up so that you understand what those roles are, where your skills fit, where you might have gaps, but how you navigate that sort of complete unknown territory.
It is really daunting, particularly if it's not been your decision to have to look for a new role and to venture out into the job market. So we want to help you. If it's a choice you've made, then great. Hopefully you're stepping into that with confidence. But if it's not, if it's something that's enforced on you, then this episode is going to be particularly helpful, because we want to help you navigate how to go into that job search, and some of the things that we have found over the recent years that have helped and also not helped, like you don't want to waste your time on, because to your point, Tracy, things have significantly changed. I could go back in the day when we used to apply for jobs on all these different platforms. What were some of the names? Job Search, Monster. I don't even think any of them are a thing anymore, are they?
Well, I'm older than that. So I used to apply for jobs. So I live in Sheffield, and we have a local newspaper called the Sheffield Star. And on a Thursday was jobs night. So all the job adverts people used to print in a newspaper, and you used to have to write a letter on a typewriter. I am really old, and put it in an envelope and send it across to apply for the jobs. Honestly, that's how ancient I am. And those kind of the methods of applying have obviously changed. You know, we're in a much different world now, but also the jobs themselves have moved on. And if you've been in a role for like 15 years, I've been supporting some ex-colleagues who, I came from a higher education background, as you know, and higher education is really going through the mill at the moment. And there are lots of people who are facing decisions about whether they need to move, or, like you referred to, some decisions have been made for them that their job is no longer available and they need to make a change. And if you've worked in a sector like that, you have very sort of specific ways of titling jobs, very specific hierarchical grading structures. And if you've not been out there in different sectors or industries, and you're trying to look for a job that's like yours, you will be quite shocked that they don't have things like senior procurement officer as a job title. You're going to need to find ways of finding those jobs that have the skills that you've got, and understand what skills are now required in a completely different way to just looking for your job title being replicated on a job board, not in the Sheffield Star anymore, but on a job board or on a recruitment site.
I remember the Sheffield Star, so I'm giving my age away. Swiftly moving on, let's not talk about age. My birthday's next week, and I'm in complete denial of the milestone that I'm hitting. So, yes, let's move on. So I guess one of the advantages now is, rather than having all of the different places, all of the different job boards, LinkedIn is the best place to go now, in my opinion. But I think on the flip side, the other thing is you've got to really have quite a strong network, because a lot of the roles don't get advertised. But don't worry about that, because you can build that network pretty quickly.
We've spoken about
we've spoken
about networks.
We've got a whole different episode on it. So
look for that if you're not sure. Look for that.
Yeah, so go and get some tips. There's like a 20-minute episode all about building your network out. But the upshot of that episode was, you actually have a really strong network now. You just need to recognize that that's what it is. So think about your past colleagues and those people who you've worked with, or there's a whole host of things you can do pretty quickly with not a lot of effort to build out that network. So I would say LinkedIn is the best place to start, but it is really daunting when you're going out there. If you've not looked for a role in a while, then it is really daunting. The other thing that I don't like about some of the application processes, and you'll see this from being in public sector as well, Tracy, some of the jobs that you apply for, and not just in public sector, but for some of the big consultancies, they will make you jump through so many hoops, even just to submit an application, that you just don't see going anywhere. It just disappears down a black hole. You might invest an hour of your time filling it in to never even get a response back. And it's very frustrating. So I would say, go on.
That's why I think it's really key that you are spending the time applying for and looking for jobs that you can do that are available. So just trying to look for your job title is not going to cut it. And then applying for everything in the world is also going to send you crazy, because you're going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours and probably not hear back from a lot of them. So being targeted and focused. And I want to explain a little bit about job titles and jobs and why they've changed. So it's not just a case of, dustbin men are now called, recycling operatives. It's not just a case of a face change, a name change at the head level. This is about changing job titles because new technologies have come along, which mean that the roles are now different. So roles that we didn't need 10, 15 years ago, we now need because we've got some new technologies, or new methodologies have come along. Agile's one that I want, refers to sort of jobs that I've had in the past, where those jobs, Scrum Master and things that come along with the Agile methodology, they never existed before. So if you don't know what's out there and how to look for those jobs because you don't understand what they are, you are going to waste time, and you're also going to get really disappointed and really frustrated. So I think it's really stepping back, thinking about your skills. What skills have you got that transfer to any role, regardless of like the technology? So your communication, your listening, all those kind of skills, your organization skills, your ability to adapt to change, all of those things you can move from one role to another, regardless of what the title's called. Then there'll be some things that you need to learn. So it might be some technical skills. So you might need to learn a different platform or a different technology. And then there'll be some things that you've got some skills, but they need updating or perhaps a bit of reframing. So it's thinking about yourself first, starting with that. And then we're going to talk a bit about, aren't we, how to identify where those skills might fit in these new job roles or these new job titles.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. To add to that, I'd say being clear on what your unique skills are and your value proposition, not as a salesy term, but just what value can you bring to a role. Honing on your strengths, what you're good at. Be aware of your weaknesses, but do not let them sap your confidence.
Yeah.
And just before you even start looking, just really think about what you do have skills wise, those more generic skills and those role specific skills, because the more generic ones are so important. Like the adaptability is a key one, because it's not just about being able to adapt to a new environment, but your ability to adapt to technology, to learning a new technology or a new tool. All of that is going to be really, really impactful and powerful when you go through the interview, if you can demonstrate that you are able to transition into that new role with ease. So I would say, like you said, Tracy, being really clear on what you're good at, and then what you want as well and why you want it. So your why is really important. And the point you made around when you apply for a role, don't let the fact that you'll apply for something and not hear back, do not let it knock you, because that will happen. So recognize that it's absolutely normal that you'll apply for roles and it will disappear and you will get no response back in a lot of cases. Do not take that as a personal thing on you. It is absolutely nothing to do with you. It is commonplace. A lot of the roles on LinkedIn might not even be real jobs. They might be, there might be roles that have been opened to gather information, or the role might have been shut down, but they're still gathering the candidates. There could be multiple reasons, but just do not it is challenging, and it's really challenging going on a job search, and you want it to happen quickly, but just don't let it knock you when you don't hear back. I think that's a really key point, because don't let it stop you from applying for the next role.
Absolutely. And I think if you've been in a job or in the same sector for a long time, you do need to establish yourself, but then you need to find out what's out there. So what is in demand at the moment? And I think there's a few ways you can do this rather than just constantly searching through LinkedIn. So you can use your network. So do your friends, family, people you know, ex-colleagues, do they have a different job title to the one that you knew them knew when they were working with you? Or what do your friends and family do? Are there areas that you think, well, I know that Suzi works in this kind of environment, I kind of fancy that? What are the job titles in your organization, Suzi? What do they come up with? What kind of roles seem to be similar to using the skills that I've got? I would say as well, using recruiters. So find out from a recruiter what's in demand at the moment. So what are those in-demand skills that they're finding difficult to fill? Because it might be a skill you already have. It might be a skill that you need to update and maybe reframe, or it might be something new that you want to learn. And you can work out then, well, how am I going to be the right person, the right fit for those in-demand skills and those in-demand roles? So you really, like you said, we don't want to turn into a salesy person, but you are filling a demand by your supply, rather than thinking, well, I do this job and I'd like to do the next step up, which in my company is this, so I'm going to look for that role. Because you're really limiting yourself, and you're also not making the best of, you're not giving yourself the best opportunity to secure something that you're really going to enjoy. I think as well, the other thing that I'd say is look beyond the title. So have a look at the job titles. If your friend says product management is massive now, well, what's a product manager do? Have a look at some adverts for project managers and look at what skills they're looking for. And what I like to do is think, what are they expecting that person to be doing in that job? And what skills will that person need in order to do that job? So they'll often give you like the responsibilities for that job. And then you can say, well, they obviously need somebody who's good at negotiating because it says to do this. They need somebody who's good at time management. They need somebody who can react to changing priorities or navigate lots of different priorities. Think about what you think they are wanting that person to be like, and then you can understand how closely they align to your current skills. I think that's a really good tip. And as you said, reach out to your network. Do you fancy doing X at Y company? Do you know someone that works at Y company? Ask them for a chat. Have you got any jobs going? What kind of person does this job? What kind of skills do they need? Can you tell me a bit more about the other roles in your organization? If you're reaching out with some purposeful, authentic, genuine question, most people will want to help you and give you a bit of a steer on where you need to create those skills, or where you need to, you've already got the skills that they need.
Yeah, I mean, ask for a virtual coffee with somebody just to dig into what they do and what they enjoy about the job and what they don't enjoy. I liked what you said then about doing some research on the capabilities. So I always, with my mentoring clients, I always do like a capability matrix. If it's a new role that they're pushing for, that they're not currently skilled up for, one of the things that you can do is get Copilot in Bing or get ChatGPT, whichever is your preference, and give a prompt around the role title and ask it to break down the skills and capabilities required for that role. and anything else that you want to know. And then maybe tell it a little bit about your current role, your current background, what you do, and then get some advice. Just ask it, how would I make the leap from what I'm doing today to being in that role, and what kind of steps would I need to take? And before you know it, actually ChatGPT or Copilot could map out a little mini career plan for you. So use the tools that are there. You can just Google it, but I think it's definitely something you could use the AI to do. It'd find the information straight away for you.
Definitely. I'm just looking at my phone because a friend of mine, we were having dinner on Sunday, we're in tapas, and a friend, well, it's my friend's partner, he was saying that he'd identified a SAI, and I think it's called Roadmap AI, and I think it roadmaps out for you what qualifications or skills you need for different roles. So I was just going to have a look if I could find that. If not, we'll pop a link to it below.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it sounded really, really good. And you know, he works in occupational therapy, so he was saying, you know, for a career in occupational therapy, what would your start point be? What would be the next things you'd need to do? What qualifications would you need? What hours of practice would you need? And in those kind of like more regulated kind of jobs, then it's easy. But I think it's got other roles and different roles on there to give you a bit of an idea of where you might need to develop those skills or qualifications or expertise in order to be able to apply for them. So yeah, I think that
sounds really helpful. What I would say as well, before you start applying for roles, or definitely in parallel to, do some TLC on your LinkedIn profile. Think of your LinkedIn profile as your shop window. Recruiters are going to come and look. So having a good background in terms of your career history is really key. If you feel like you want to put some kind of summary around what you do, what I see a lot of people do is the top bit of your CV where you explain your skills, capabilities in more summary form. You could pop that into your LinkedIn profile. Your bio at the top, which is the first thing that anybody will see, write something really impactful in there. And if you want examples, just go on LinkedIn and look at other people's. Or again, get ChatGPT to write something for you. But it's little basics like that. You want someone who doesn't know you to come to your LinkedIn profile and to instantly understand that you're a good fit for the role. So say you're applying for a project manager role, you don't want business analyst all over your LinkedIn profile. You want it to actually talk about the capabilities and the role that you're applying for. So I would say that is really key. Put some contact details on there, or they can reach out to you over message if you've applied for a role and somebody wants to get in touch. But I would say, give a bit of TLC to your LinkedIn profile. The other thing is recommendations on your profile are powerful as well. I think we said this in one of the previous videos. If you're going to get a recommendation, don't just get it from a line manager. Getting it from your peers is really helpful as well, because it gives a future organisation or recruiter insight into what it's like to actually work with you, whether you're helpful, team player, that kind of thing. So any tips on the LinkedIn you want to share, Tracy?
I wasn't going to share a tip on LinkedIn, but I was going to share a little bit of a tip from my own experience of, I mentioned earlier around Agile. And I really wanted to get into the Agile space. And I knew that I didn't have the expertise, the experience of working in an Agile organization. So rather than trying to develop those Agile skills outside of work and trying to create myself as an Agile sort of expert or anybody who's familiar with it, I actually moved to a role that was Agile adjacent, if you like. So I moved to a role that I was more than capable of doing. I was working in business change, which is my expertise, but it worked alongside product managers and scrum masters in that organization. So I got the sort of experience of using Agile really in a real life situation, understand how it operated, built a network of people who were really qualified in that area and could give me information on how this works and why it works. and show it working in operation rather than just the theory. I then did get some qualifications as well, and that set me up really to be able to then, the next move I made was to be a product manager. So I worked in the agile sphere, but I had to take that kind of step and then another step in order to get there. So when you're thinking about your skills, it might be that you could do a role that is sitting alongside teams or roles that have got the skills that you want to develop, so that you've got more experience of working alongside them, so that then you can move on to being in that environment because you've actually picked up those skills, you've used them, you've honed them, you really understand them. And when you're going for a role that's within that sphere, you've got real examples to talk about, and you're more authentic with your experience of doing that. So I think that's another thing to think about when you're thinking about those skills gaps. How do I maybe navigate picking up those skills, but in a different way?
I think that's great advice. It leads me to another thought, but it's maybe a separate discussion or a separate episode around, when you're applying externally for a role, should you try and apply for a promotion role, or should you try and sideways move? And I think there's definitely a deep dive needed, but I think either or, both. But I think it'll be easier to move sideways. But I don't have a lot of patience for that. So, so it depends on what you're looking for. But we'll do a separate. Episode on that. It'd be a good one. Let's end on something fun then. So, Tracy, if you could have a blank sheet of paper, I'm gonna catch you off guard now. You're not gonna love me for this. If you had a blank sheet of paper and you could pick any role that you could do, and what would you do as a career if I had a genie lamp? In fact, I've got one, so I will hold my genie lamp. What role do you want to do if you had a blank sheet of paper? What would you pick?
I don't think you're gonna like this. So I know exactly what I'd do. It's a job I've wanted to do all my life, and it's really funny. I was talking to my son about it the other day. I want to be a Foley artist. And you might not know what a Foley artist is.
What's a Foley artist?
A Foley artist is the person who does the sound effects for radio. So if you listen to any sort of radio plays or things that are on the radio, I listen to the Archers, as you know, and as anyone who knows me knows. And they make the sound effects. So if you hear horses clopping, the old coconuts, or if you hear someone going into a room and it's a pub and they've got like sounds in there, that door opening, all of that kind of stuff is the stuff that was my job of dreams when I was younger. Oh, wow. I'm nowhere near it, but yeah, that would be my ideal job.
What you'd think now then? You said when you were younger, but now as well. That's amazing.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to work on the radio. I think I've got a face for radio.
Oh, God. No. Oh dear. That's really interesting. Oh, mine's I think I'd like to be somewhere, obviously if I've got the kids I'd have to come with me, but I think I'd like to be somewhere tropical. Okay. And I'd like to be a scuba diving instructor, but there's got to be somewhere where there's sharks. That's my non-negotiable. So, but
I think you should tell people you're a shark. What you've got in your office.
I know, I'm so sad. I'm so obsessed with sharks. But yeah, that's what I do. Something water related. I did apply when I was in my 20s to do one of these conservation projects, but it was expensive. It was like £2,000, and the role I was going to be doing was chumming the water for the great whites. And I thought, I'm terribly seasick. I could just imagine it won't be good. And I'm thinking I couldn't stand it. If I was scuba diving with the great whites, I'd be all right with that. But I thought, I'm not going to chum the water with the boat. Not pay to be there. But yeah.
So if anyone has any more realistic career ambitions than ours, then I hope that what we've talked about today will help. And I've given you a new job title that probably people didn't know either. Foley artist. But yeah, I hope that we have managed to share some hints and tips and given people a bit of an idea of how to break out from that box and be a bit broader in their search as well.
Yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you've got massive value, and we'll have some more to share really soon.
Yeah,
have a great week, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button and tap the bell for notifications. See you next time.